Hey everyone, what's up? It's Bill, the company's expert. How are we doing today? Welcome to Side Hustle Ideas. And this is the weekly live stream where we talk about business and entrepreneurship. Thank you for joining me today. Special thanks to my Patreons, to my YouTube channel members. You guys rock. Thank you for the support. And thank you to all the participants. You guys are the glue that glues together the gears that makes this whole thing work. I see Canha is here who says hi. So hi to Canra. Yes, this is episode number 57 of Side Hustle Ideas. And the title of today's episode is called How to Start a Business, a Step-by-Step Guide for Beginners. So we're going to be talking about that. But first, we're going to briefly talk about what is an MBA. I got a couple of people asking me that. I've done a series of videos about the MBA and what it is. And so I thought we'd touch on that very briefly just to kick things off. The word of the day is plastique. Plastique. I love the sound of that word. People don't use that word enough in a business context as much as they should. I just like it. You know, I have 5 kilos of plastique concealed somewhere about my person. Yeah, so you know what? We're going to be talking about those two topics, and then we're going to be taking questions. This is a live stream with a chat. So if you're watching this on your phone or on a computer or a device of some kind, you should see the chat box somewhere near my face. Get in the chat. Let me know what you're struggling with. Let me know what you're wondering about, and I will try and help you out as best I can. Yeah, let's just dive into it. So a couple of people asked, what is an MBA? Excellent question. It's totally relevant if you want to be an entrepreneur or you even want to do a side hustle on the side, which I love, by the way. Side hustles are awesome. They're a great way for you to stick your toe into the world of entrepreneurship and in the meantime, make a few bucks and learn a hell of a lot. And for some people, they just go as far as supplementing their income, you know, a couple $100 a month, a couple $1,000 a month extra on top of their day job. Other people, they take it a lot further. It's a way for them to monetize the thing that they really want to do in life. If it's a creative thing or a hobby type thing, it allows them to transition from doing a job that you're not really into for an employer into working for yourself and, you know, being able to prosper because of a passion for something that, you know, you just feel you want to do. And, you know, it can be a really wonderful thing. So whichever way you slice it, if you are looking to learn more about this, this is really good. And an MBA or something close to it might be a path for you. Okay, so let's get into it. An MBA stands for MBA, Masters of Business Administration. It is a master's degree in business. And I know a lot of people I'm sure know all this already, but I'm going to start from the beginning for the benefit of a couple of people who asked, because I suspect that they're rather young, either very young adults and like, you know, they're adults, but they're on, you know, they're not 60 years old like I'm nearly. And, you know, they don't know this stuff. So when you go to university, there are sort of 3 levels of education that you can take in a university. Okay. There's colleges and there's trade schools and there's all that kind of stuff. But we're talking about university, which is sort of like, you know, generally speaking, sort of a higher level type thing. And you got the bachelor level, you got the master's level, and you got the PhD level. So I'm sure most people are familiar with that. But what they don't tell you, okay, what they certainly didn't tell me, is that let's talk about the first level of education. So if you're coming out of high school and you're going into university and you're taking a degree, you're most likely going to be taking a bachelor degree. That's referred to as an undergraduate degree because you haven't yet graduated with any kind of degree from university. This is your first one, right? So let's confine this to business, right? You could be taking architecture or nursing or law or medicine or engineering or, you know, all kinds of different disciplines, the sciences, the arts. But we're just going to talk about business for today. If you go into business and you take a bachelor degree in business, okay, you probably come out of university with something called like a Bachelor of Commerce, something like that. And what that does is it qualifies you essentially it's hard to say this without kind of having it come across as insulting, but it qualifies you to be a grunt, okay? So you can work in an organization, you can work as a professional, but you're probably going to be lower down, generally speaking. For example, if you work at a bank or something, there's people that are like vice presidents and this kind of thing running the bank, and then there's people lower down that deal with the day-to-day kind of business tasks, right? You're certainly going to be qualified to do the lower down stuff. Okay, you're the person that is given instructions, and then you go and you carry out that task. Okay, generally speaking, that's kind of what a bachelor degree prepares you for, right? Now, if you were to stay in school or go back to school, you already have a bachelor degree from a university, but you want to go back to university to learn more. Now you're going to be at the master's level, okay? And traditionally, the way this worked is that you had to get really good marks at the bachelor degree to qualify to be at the master's level. That's not really the case for a lot of things now. Not for everything, but for some things like business. Business, you don't even have to have a bachelor degree in business to take the master's degree, which is the MBA. And theoretically, what that does is it qualifies you to be a general manager. So you're no longer the grunt at the bottom that's being given tasks to do by a manager. You are the manager. You're someone who decides what to do, okay? Not is told what to do and then just carries it out. You're the one that decides what you should be doing in the first place. So that's the difference, right? That's in theory what's going on there. So that's the master's level, and the master's level degree in business is called an MBA, Master's of Business Administration. If you were theoretically to go back to school or take more schooling and go to the PhD level, that's where you're no longer considered a master that has mastered that subject. You're now someone who is in the realm of pushing forward the body of human knowledge. You're going to be discovering something new or innovating or learning something that no one else has learned before. No person on the planet knows what you know in a very specific area. That's the PhD level, okay? So in order to get a PhD, you have to have done original work that has pushed forward the body of human knowledge in some way. Okay, so that's kind of how that stuff works. So an MBA is the master's degree in business. That's what the vast majority of bosses, managers, business people in the real world have if they have education. You see much more master's degree people than you see PhDs, for example. PhDs tend to not be out in the real world running businesses. They tend to be in universities doing research. Alpha Augustus says, how can I fire my boss? Is that what you say there? There's something in the way. Yeah, how can I fire my boss? Well, if you know how to knock someone out with one punch, that can be very, very handy in a case like this. If you have a buddy to kneel down on all fours right behind them and then you give them a little tap, that also helps. And then they'll probably fire you, actually, if you ended up actually doing that. But there are ways, but I think that's a joke question, so I'm not going to give a serious answer to a joke question. Then you just look a fool. I felt a jackass, right? There's a mixed metaphor for you. Okay, so that's what an MBA is. What does it consist of? It's essentially you take a bunch of courses, right? So you'll take a course on each of the different topics or areas of business. There'll be a marketing course, an accounting course, HR course, an operations course, IT, finance, all this kind of stuff. And you'll be learning how to think and how to deal with real world situations. So there's a lot of case studies involved where you look at real world scenarios that companies have been in, and you've looked at what they've done, and you look at what they could have done instead, and you look at how it turned out, right? So there's a lot of studying that kind of stuff. And in theory, that prepares you to be the boss, right? No one tells you what to do. You have to decide what to do. That's an MBA. And I guess the only other thing I'll add in this is that for those of you guys who have done business, you know that there's many different ways of looking at a business situation. An accountant will look at things in a certain way, whereas a salesperson will look at that same situation in a different way. A risk management person will come in and have a different perspective on things. and a quality control person will come in and look at, they'll have a completely different take on the same situation. So there's many different ways of looking at things. And for those of you guys that have been out in the real world and you've like ran businesses and things, you know that there isn't one perspective that's dominant or that's always right. You need a shared perspective. You need to look at the same situation from all these different angles to really get an idea of what's going on and what you should maybe do, right? That's kind of not something they are super quick to tell you. This is something you sort of figure out by experience and osmosis. Everything I've said is very general. Obviously, a huge part of knowing what to do in the real world is based on experience also, experience in your particular industry. So an MBA or any kind of schooling is something that supplements your experience. And for those of you who have tried to get a job in business, you've applied for manager type jobs, you know that, a big requirement pretty much across the board is going to be experience. It's not enough that you have schooling. You also have to have it tempered with, having been out in the real world and dealt with real world situations and had accomplishments in real world situations. So that's what that is. Now, it's on the screen, so I've got to mention it. Yes, I offer a course, okay? But if you're thinking of doing entrepreneurship or you're thinking of starting a business and you're serious about this, it's pretty much a prerequisite. You can either learn everything the hard way, which will take a very long time, and usually it's very expensive because you make very expensive mistakes, or you can learn most of what you need to know the easy way, and that's where an MBA comes in. You can take a traditional one from school, you could take this program from me, but like for $100 and the amount of time that you invest in doing the course, the payoff is an absolute no-brainer because this knowledge of this will help you make better decisions, help you conduct yourself more professionally. Even if you weren't really doing entrepreneurship and you're just trying to get a promotion or something like that, if this gets you a promotion, say 2 years earlier than you might have, and your salary goes up by like $10,000 or $20,000 a year, that's, let's say it's worst case scenario, let's say it's $10,000 for 2 years, that's $20,000. It cost you $100 and a little bit of time to get $20,000. So, I mean, that's an absolute no-brainer. So check out this course if you're interested in that. I created it for people that want to do entrepreneurship. They want to, succeed in business on its own merits. They want to pick up the skills. And what you're getting like an absolute no BS, no fluff, no self-serving, trendy sales pitch crap. You're getting like the actual material that is taught in schools using the same sources as they use in schools, from textbooks written by, some of the consummate professionals that write the textbooks that are used in places like Harvard Business School. So that's what you're getting. So check it out if you're interested in that. But that's what an MBA is. If you're thinking of becoming an entrepreneur or even doing a side hustle, it is well worth boning up on some of the basic principles of how business works before you pull the trigger, especially spending money or, expending a lot of your effort at doing something. Your time is very precious if you got a day job and you're doing this on the side. Yeah. Alfred says experience is, you see, I got this thing blocking they put like the little icon that hovers right over top of a chat box in Streamlabs. So it's really annoying, but it says experience is the best tutor for humans. Yes. Yeah, that's true, but it is not the be all end all. As an aside, do you guys know the difference between learning by experience and learning by theory? A lot of people don't know this. You see, it's a raging debate that has been, that's ubiquitous. It's been going on forever when you talk about an MBA, and, people that don't have MBAs, they love to bring up this topic of like, well, is it worth going to school or should I just, have experience? Well, it's not the same thing. If you learn everything you know by experience, by shadowing somebody on the job, okay, so you observe your boss, you see what they do, and then maybe your boss takes you under their wing and starts training you, you shadow them, you follow them everywhere they go and see what they do and replicate what they do, and then you can step into their shoes and do their job, right? That's what it seems like. Now, obviously, I'm not knocking it. There's a lot of advantages in being able to do that, okay? However, what they don't tell you is here's the weakness. If you learn that way, okay, you learn how to do this one thing. You learn to do that job the way it has been done. And that works great if you're in a very slow-moving, non-innovative industry. But if things change, you learn everything your boss does, your boss retires, and then you get promoted into their role, right? But now things are different. New technology comes in, a new competitor comes in. The marketplace changes. The needs of customers are different. They're looking for different things. The old stuff doesn't work. The old formulas don't work anymore. Now you're screwed because all you know is the way your previous boss did it. And so if you deviate from that, it's pure guesswork. You're just like, I don't know, maybe we could try this. And it's trial and error, and you usually fail. The advantage of learning the theory is that if they put you in a situation that you haven't seen with your own eyes before, you haven't seen somebody deal with that exact situation before, you can make very intelligent predictions of what you should do that will work, and they usually work. That's the difference, right? So obviously that's why you need both. You need experience, and then you need theory. They each play a role, right? That's how the two come together. Getting an MBA is the theory part of business, but like I've advocated for on this live stream, if you want to be in business, you want to learn how to make money directly by yourself without an employer to stand between you and the source of income, you also need to go out and do things, try things, get that experience base, right? When it comes to the particular thing that you're wanting to learn. Alfred says theory plus proper experience equals success. Yes, exactly. And I know that for some people in this day and age, the education is a bit of a barrier because the tuition prices go up and up and up and up, and this kind of thing. So that's why I created my course, this thing right here, right? Because it gives you exactly the same outcomes, but it's so much more convenient. You don't have to quit your day job. You don't have to go back to school full time for like a year or 2 years. That's why I created that. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Everyone hopefully understands. And the role that, what you would need if you're in a fast moving industry that's constantly changing, business is constantly changing in that industry, then you would definitely want more theory so you can adapt to new situations. But if you're in a more traditional industry, it's very slow moving. It's been around for 100 years. It's going to be around for another 100 years. Everybody who works there knows that. Then you can get away with just learning by shadowing people and, being on the job for a very long time. Then you can get away with that and then hope that things don't change. And I've had firsthand experience working in an industry like that. I've worked across 5 industries, and definitely one of them for sure was exactly like that. Okay, we got 21 people here. Thank you for joining me today. You guys are awesome. Hopefully you're here to learn something. The main topic of today's live stream was how to start a business, a step-by-step guide for beginners. Okay, now usually when you ask this question, you say, how do I start a business? For some reason, a lot of people end up asking this question. It gets answered by accountants. I know that there's a lot of accountants who have written books on this. The kind of books that you would buy at like Chapters, Indigo, those kind of places. There's a lot of people doing videos, a lot of people doing articles about this kind of thing, but it always seems to be accountants that answer that question. So they give you an extremely accounting-centered answer. And they'll say, you could start a corporation, or you could start a sole proprietorship, or you could start a partnership, the different forms of business, right? And that has been discussed extensively. You can find that. All of that as far as I'm concerned, is completely beside the point. Because let me ask you a question. What's the point of starting a business if you still don't understand how to make money? Like, great. You've got a registered company name. You've got a registered tax entity. You know how to do your taxes. Okay. You know how to write off certain expenses against the income that you make. Okay. You've got a website. You've got a fancy office space somewhere. You are registered as a member of an association, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yet you have no idea how to make money, like how to get a customer to buy something from you. Would that be an answer to the question? How to start a business? To me, it's not. To a lot of accountants, they don't even address that. They just say, well, you registered this. These are your options. You know, this is how you register your company name. It's basically an excursion into the bureaucracy involved in filling in forms. Okay. Now, I'm not going to cover that here. Okay. Because that's what other people seem to always talk about for some reason. I'm going to talk about something a little bit more important, which is how to get money coming in. Because if you can get money coming in, then it makes sense to register a company name, worry about how you're going to do your taxes, you know, et cetera. Then all the other stuff makes sense. Then you would have a need for a website or office space or employees. You know what I'm saying? So the very first thing, as far as I'm concerned, is how to get money coming in. So you know that, like, A, this is going to work, and B, there's a need for all these other things. And it makes sense for me to go ahead and incur all these costs because I have money pouring in as revenue to help cover those costs, right? See, a lot of people start businesses out of like an ego trip. They want to feel that they're in business. So they get business cards, they get a website, they register a company name, but they have no money. They have no source of revenue. They haven't made a cent, and they don't know how to make a cent. So with that big, long disclaimer out of the way, let's talk about this. And let's not forget the importance of luck. Well, yeah. Well, like if somebody said, you know, I want to be a doctor, you know, my answer wouldn't be like, well, you know, there's a huge component of luck involved in whether you can be a doctor. That's like, no, it's not, to me, it's not really luck. It's, you know, do you have the knowledge? Do you have the drive? If you have the knowledge and the drive and the opportunity, then there's no luck really, other than, you know, you didn't get some kind of terminal disease and die or something like that as a matter of random chance. CL Flan says, at my desk at work, soaking it all up. You are great, sir. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's high praise indeed. Okay, let's return to this. So how to start a business. Now, short answer is that don't worry about any kind of bureaucratic thing in the very beginning. It's all irrelevant, okay? The only thing, in my opinion, my recommendation that you should be worried about is how to get money coming in, how to get a source of revenue. If I can't get any kind of money coming in the door, then I should not proceed with anything that involves work or anything that involves cost, because it will not make sense. It'll be a lot of work and a lot of expense that I'm paying for out of my pocket for absolutely no gain, right? So the only thing you should be worried about first is, can I make money? Okay, now to that aim, let's look at something here. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so what I did was I typed in the title of this live stream, okay, into Google. And these are the results, okay? Now, I just want to say this, okay? Starting a business can seem like a lot, but following these steps will help make sure you're successful. And then they proceed to give you the absolute wrong thing to do. Make a business plan. Nope. How are you supposed to know what to do if you haven't tried anything yet? You are going to learn by doing it, okay? And what's the point of, before you just go ahead and do something, writing it all out in a big report? Who's the report for? Is it for you? Do you not know? Do you not remember your own thoughts on this? There's no need to do this, any of this. Secure funding, wrong. This is how traditionally you would do entrepreneurship that worked up until about 30, 40 years ago. Okay. Starting with the internet, especially, there's a much superior way of doing things than this. You don't need money up front. This is the procedure if you want to start a business unit it's not something that's at the level of an individual. It's at the level of like hundreds of people, okay? For example, you want to buy a franchise or like a series of gas stations, or you want to tack on a new division of your company. This is the procedure for that. But this is not the procedure you follow if you're a single person trying to supplement your income or start a new business that you're going to run by yourself. It doesn't work like this. Okay? Surround yourself with the right people. Yeah, well, if it's a single person business, obviously you can't do that. Follow the right legal procedures. Yes, obviously you don't want to do anything illegal. So what I want to say is that this is the worst advice you could give somebody as an individual. Okay, now I've advised startup founders for years, and I've started several businesses myself, and I've worked in large enterprise, and I've worked in small and medium-sized business, SMEs. So I know what I'm talking about here. But what I want to talk about specifically is, where was it? Right here. No, it's right here. Sorry. Google has these like little pre-answered questions for you. This one right here. What is the first rule of starting a business? And someone says, the first rule of business is find a need and fulfill it. Right? This is good advice. This is what you should be paying attention to. Okay? That's a great, I'm actually kind of jealous of this answer. I wish I could have summarized it so succinctly myself. But find a need and fulfill it. Okay? So this is what you have to do. Now, you'll notice that this is different from what a lot of people do. A lot of people that want to start businesses, they don't do that. Instead, what they do is they kind of go internally and they kind of think about things, and they make a prediction, and they say, I have a theory that, if I do this, if I build this, they will come. Right? So it's not based on observation. It's based on your thought processes and your theorizing. Okay? What this is saying, okay, is it's saying, at least the way I'm interpreting it is, it's saying, go observe what you see. Go find a need. See people that need something that's not really being fulfilled properly. People are buying this product and they're not really happy with it, but there's no real better alternative. So this is the best option there is. So they're going with this option, but they're not really happy about it. They're not satisfied. It's either too expensive, or the quality is bad, or the features of this particular product or service don't meet their needs. They're not satisfied, right? That's what you need to look for. You need to see actual customers of some kind, users of something, that are not happy with something. Their needs are not being met, and they are not satisfied with the existing solutions that are available to them. But it's something that you could help them with, right? That's what you need to go out and find, okay? If you can see this, you've already solved several of the steps in the process that you're going to have to do later on, okay? So this is what you need to look for first. Before you register a company name, before you register, a tax entity, or you create a website or business cards or rent office space or anything like that, you got to find this first. And this costs absolutely nothing, but it will take a little bit of effort and a little bit of observation. This might involve you going out and physically going to places where certain people congregate, users of a certain thing. It might involve you interacting with a lot of people. It might observe you observing a lot of people. Okay, but this is the first thing you need to do. This is the first step. If you can't see this, I would really preach caution about doing any of the other things you need to do before you've done this. Okay? Yeah, here are my notes. Let's see if I can, there we go. It's got to master my technology here. It's something that someone of my age really has trouble with, apparently. Yeah. The only real thing that you have to do after that, or that you could do in the meantime, is think of a company name. Think of a name. Now, in a perfect world, your name would be unique, or it would be locally unique. So let's say that there's another company out there that has a name, but you like this particular name. You can usually get away with it if they're not in your industry. Okay? That's usually how you can do it. Sometimes it's separated by geographical location. We see this in the construction industry. You go to one city, and there's if you find a business called 4 Aces Plumbing or something like that, there will be a company in that particular city called 4 Aces Plumbing, and they operate locally in that city. It's just a sort of mom and pop type operation. And then you go to the next city, and there'll be another company called 4 Aces Plumbing, or 4 Aces Drywall, or 4 Aces Roofing, or something like that. Like, they're not going to sue each other over the name 4 Aces, because somewhere in the world there's hundreds of companies called 4 Aces something or other, right? The only critical thing is that in that particular geographic region, or in that specific industry, basically, you need to be unique to a customer base, to a market. That's the only thing that matters. Now, beyond that, the only other constraints you'd ever worry about would be legal constraints. If the government in your area where you register company names, if they have little wants, wills, and needs, then you could do that. But you don't need to register your company name at this stage. You don't need to go through any bureaucracy at all until you get money coming in. That's when you need to worry about the bureaucracy. There's a lot of people that provide services, whether they're accountants or they're, lawyers or other people, consultants, that will love to tell you need to go out and spend all this money right off the hop before you've done anything to register things and to reserve things and set up things. You don't have to do anything until you're assured that you can make money. Okay? So I just want everyone to understand that. I can't say that enough times. So it might be a good idea to think of a company name. Okay, so you can tell people like a name, right? You don't have to use your own name, personal name of your first name, last name thing. You can actually give a company name or a business name, but it doesn't have to be registered, right? Think of like YouTube channels. When somebody creates a YouTube channel, do they register their YouTube channel name with the government, in the country that they're based? No, they don't. Even if they thought like, look, I want to monetize my YouTube channel and maybe quit my job eventually and become a YouTuber or something, they still don't register their YouTube channel name with the government as a company name when they first set up their YouTube channel. They may do that later on if they choose to, if they get really big, but most people don't. You don't need to do that stuff. Right? I mean, if you don't even get monetized, what would be the point of any of that? It's just all a waste of time. And if it costs you money, it's money you'll never get back. Okay? So that's the first thing you need to do. Okay, to start a company step by step is look for a need. Okay? See if you can fill that need. And then the second step is to validate that. What does validation mean? That means to prove something. Right? You want to prove that it makes sense for you to persist with this plan. And specifically, you want to prove that you can make money with it. So what does that mean? That means you need to prove that you can convince a customer or a client to initiate a transaction with you, to buy your thing. Right? That's what you have to do. And let me ask you something. If a member of your family came to you and said, I'm going to quit my job and instead I'm going to make money doing this thing. I have a plan to start up a business doing this. I feel I could do this. I could become a plumber and I could have my own big plumbing company and, I could make millions of dollars and, have all these plumbers working for me. And, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start that up, right? Maybe this is your idiot brother or something like that says, I'm going to do this. What would it take to convince you that this was a good idea? Because they're about to quit their job to do it, right? and they may need to come and stay with you and borrow money, right? So what would it take for them to convince you that this is going to work? You're skeptical. Now, if they came to you and said, well, this isn't such a stupid idea. Look, I've had requests for me to provide plumbing services for 10 people. 10 homeowners have already said, like, I'll pay you. You charge what, $50 an hour? Okay, I need you to come to my house and fix this leak. I need you to come to my house and install a new, luxury bathroom. I need you to come and do this work for me. We've got a building, all the pipes are old. I want you to do a complete overhaul on the plumbing system on this building. I've already got people like wanting to pay me that would hire me tomorrow to do all this stuff. And here they've given me an endorsed check, to show that they're serious, or they've prepaid for it. Would that convince you that your brother should quit their job and set up a plumbing company? Would that be enough? What if one person, they, gave them this and said, like, look, here's an endorsed check. I'd like you to come and work for me and sell plumbing services. Would that be enough to convince you that this is a good idea? Maybe they convinced one person, but that's it, right? Okay, so in a way, you're wearing the shoes of an investor. An investor is saying, like, is this a good investment or not? Is this a business that's likely to succeed or not? Is it going to be profitable or not? Right? What would it take to convince you? Usually, this is the kind of thing that shuts down any kind of reservations from investors. It's not like Dragon's Den or Shark Tank or any of those TV shows where someone says, I got this idea, I'm going to make hot dogs that fly. This will be the latest thing. It's like a hot dog, and you put the mustard and the ketchup in it, and you put it in the slingshot, and right? It'll be like the latest trend. It'll be the latest fad. Everyone will want one of these, right? At parties, you name it. Like t-shirt cannons. Well, this will be the next step, right? You get like a hot dog to the face at 150 clicks. And the investors look at that with their jaw hanging open. They go like, I don't think that's going to succeed. Well, who knows? One person says that's a great idea. Another person says that's a stupid idea. Who's right? It's unknowable, right? But if the founder or the entrepreneur says, well, okay, I understand that you think this is a silly idea. I know a lot of investors that think this is a silly idea. I've made $150,000 in the last month selling this. Do you want to invest? Oh, and by the way, I've made, $150,000 every month for the last 2 years, and I'm expanding. Okay, now do you want to invest? Most investors at that point will go, sure. No argument here. It costs you this much. You just made this much in a month. Okay, I'm in. Right? That shuts everything down, right? Results speak for themselves. It's not about opinions, it's about results. So same thing. This is what you have to do to start up a business. You have to prove not only to yourself, because you're all for it, but you are hardly objective about these things. You would have to prove to a skeptic, the hypothetical skeptic that's on your team, the hypothetical investor that would be waiting to invest, but they don't agree with your opinions. They don't think it's going to work. Your brother that's always putting them down, that's saying that they're a loser and they have harebrained harebrained ideas. Right? So that's what the process of validation is. It's a way to silence skeptics, skeptical voices, either your own or those of others. And usually the best way of proving to them that this can make money is to have made money with it, right? So the great thing is that you don't have to actually produce a product sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes you don't actually have to produce a product or provide a service to have money coming in. You have people that are willing to prepay for it. Okay? In fact, this is how a lot of business is done. Business to business type transactions occur. Back years ago when I was a project manager, if I needed a contractor to come in and do something, you'd call them up. You'd say, hey, I need you to come in and do this. I understand, it's like $1,000 per job. I need you to do 4 jobs. Can you guys come in next week in the mornings? And they say, yeah, we could have somebody over there. You say, okay, great. Pencil me in. And then they come in, they do the work. right? And then they send you a bill for it later, right? And then you pay it. They send you an invoice, right? How does it work in the consumer market? It doesn't work like that, does it? You walk to the store and you say, I'd like to buy this. They say, okay, give me your money up front, right? You want to order something off the internet, off Amazon. You say, I'd like to buy this. They say, okay, give me your money up front and we'll send it to you. Trust us, right? That's how this works. It's like you're buying something from Amazon, right? You pay up front, and then I will provide the service. Now, if there's some kind of problem and it turns out that, we don't have that in stock, as it turns out, so we can't send it to you, then we refund your money, right? So what you can do is you can just adopt this model and say, like, look, I provide this service, even though you never have before, but this is what it costs. This is what I'll do. And let's say this is realistic. You have the capability of doing this. If it made sense. If somebody paid you, you'd certainly be able to deliver, right? The question is, does it make sense for you to do this? So you say, hey, I provide plumbing services. And you see if you get any bites, right? If you get 10 people saying, yes, I need a plumber. I've been trying to get a plumber to come in and do all this work, and all the plumbers are busy. We don't have enough plumbers in this city, right? And the ones that usually come in are usually jerks and they don't do a good job, right? I'm looking for somebody good that can do this. And you say, sure, I can do that. And this is what I charge. And I say, okay, great. And you say, okay, we'll pay in advance and then we'll be over and we'll do it whenever, it's right here. Okay. Right now, if you get a lot of people saying yes, and they pay up front, there's your proof. There's nothing further is needed to prove to yourself or to anyone else that this is going to be a sustainable, profitable thing, right? Assuming, of course, that what you've said you were going to do is realistic, right? And you can deliver on it, right? So that's what you have to do. Now, what's going to happen for a lot of people is that you won't get the bites, or you won't get enough bites, which tells you have to go back and tweak what you're offering, okay? And if you get one or two, but then you decide not to follow through, it's fine. You just give people a refund. You say, I'm terribly sorry. I unfortunately can't, move forward with this, but thank you anyway. I wish you the best of luck. You know what I mean? But occasionally you'll hit gold. And that's when you proceed. And then when you proceed, when you do all the bureaucracy and you take all the expense to set things up, that it makes sense to do so because you have revenue coming in. The revenue has already come in, and that's what you're using to finance all these expenses now. To get the office space, to get the website, to get the business cards, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? So that's my version of how to start a business, step-by-step guide for beginners. The bureaucracy is easy. How to set up a company is easy. Okay, you go to your local government website, or you could do a Google search to find this, and they'll have a website that says this is the company's office, this is how you register your company name. Very simple if you want to do that, right? You can hire an accountant to advise you on the money matters. You can hire a lawyer to advise you on legal matters. But you do that when you have money coming in, a lot of money. And now you get your ducks in a row and make sure you're doing everything properly to manage your risk, right? That's something you worry about later on. The only thing you need to worry about in the beginning is validation, right? So that's my version of it. Okay, there are 29 people here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me today. This is the part of the live stream where we go to you guys if you have any questions. So get in the chat. Let me know what you're wondering, what you're struggling with, what you're working on, and I will do my best to answer your questions to help you out. I like doing this. The reason I do this is because people show up to these things and people send me a ton of questions, and people buy my courses and people watch my videos, and there's obviously a need for it. That's why I do this. I'm actually finding it quite enjoyable, generally speaking. I never in a million years thought that I'd end up doing this. My sort of day job is a management consultant, and I still have a lot of clients and I still do that. But I have to admit, I'm finding the YouTube thing every year that goes by, I'm finding it a little bit more enjoyable. So there you go. So that's why I persist with these. I just launched a third channel, actually, Company's Expert 3. I've got this thing that's been up on the screen, the Company's Expert 2. That channel has had kind of, I've done it differently over the last 3 or 4 years. I used to do it, originally it was for like live streaming, but I moved that to my main channel, and then I used it for podcasts, and then I sort of stopped doing podcasts in favor of live streams. And then now I'm using it for clips and things like that. So I have a lot of stuff, but I've basically put all the how to get a job type clip videos on here. And I've just launched a third channel, the Company's Expert 3. That's where I'm putting all the entrepreneurship related videos that I'm going to be doing, or that I have done. So check out the Company's Expert 3. There should be a link from my YouTube channel page, or you could just type in the Company's Expert 3 and it should take you right to it. I got a whopping 1 video up there because it launched yesterday, but there's going to be a lot more. So go there and subscribe to the Company's Expert 3 if you like my business content. Alfer says, most newly found business would bankrupt in 2 years. Reality of survivalship bias. I don't know what that is. There's no bias involved. It's just trial and error. And you see, this is the thing. Like, what are the odds of getting a hole-in-one in golf? Right? I'm not a big golf player. I respect people who play a lot of golf. Like, I wish I did, and I was as good at it as they are. But in golf, you get a hole-in-one. You just like hit the ball and it goes like 100 miles, and then it lands in this little tiny hole. What's the odds of getting that in one shot? It's like the holy grail of golfing, right? There's some people that get a hole-in-one occasionally, right? But what are the odds? It's very, very unlikely that will happen, especially if you're inexperienced, right? It's exactly the same analogy if you're starting a business. If you've never started the business before, you've never made any money directly before, and you try something, now the odds are against you. The odds are that, you didn't guess correctly. You didn't predict everything 100% accurately, right? It didn't work out the way you were envisioning, and it ends up not going anywhere. But you learn, right? Now, the problem is, like, okay, so a moment ago, we were looking at this webpage, right? And what was the first thing that I talked about? I think it was the first thing I talked about. It was, I said, look at this. Starting a business can seem like a lot, but this is what you should do. The first thing they say is to make a business plan. Then they talk about securing funding, right? Now, what they're not telling you is that why would you need funding? It's because you're going to spend a ton of money. In order to try your idea, you're going to spend a lot of money, usually money that isn't yours. That's what, the implications of securing funding means. Okay, usually you're not spending entirely your own money. You're spending government grant money, or investor money, or friends and family money, right? It's not yours. Or you're spending money that you took out from a bank as a loan that you're going to have to repay later, right? You don't have the cash up front, so you've got to get a loan. Now, the problem is that, like Alfer said here, like Alfer pointed out in the chat, most ideas, especially when you're inexperienced, they tend to fail, right? So this is one of the reasons why you should not be spending a ton of money up front, why you need to validate your idea first. Because wouldn't it be great is that if this idea ended up not working out, wouldn't it be great if you knew that sooner rather than later, and it didn't cost you anything to try the idea? Wouldn't that be an improvement? Of course it would, right? If it costs you $150,000 to finally realize that this idea is not going to work, chances are you're going to be done. You're not going to try another business idea after this one, right? So that's one of the reasons why this is not the procedure to follow if you're an individual wanting to start a home business or something. That's just not the way to go. That's maybe something that you would do in a larger organization setting up an entire business unit, right? But you wouldn't follow it here. Then there's a lot of people involved. That's when you've got to write business plans. You don't have to write a business plan for yourself. And the other thing is that if you end up like going to get a loan, they don't care about your business plan. They're not going to look at it and validate your idea. The reason that most loans are given is because they've written in personal guarantees that say that, you're paying this money back. Like, you understand that, right? Whether your idea flops or it takes off, you're still paying this money back, right? So there's no risk really, or there's very little risk for the lender. You're assuming all the risk, right? And this is why I said earlier that, people should learn about how business works before they start doing this kind of thing. Because if you don't understand the concept of risk, you're taking all these big risks and it's likely you're going to lose, right? So, but a lot of people that go down this path, they're just ignorant of all these concepts. So they end up taking out big loans. They try an idea, it flops, and then they're on the hawk for all this money. And then that pretty much puts an end to any of their entrepreneurial ventures from that point onwards. So that's not the way to do it. There is a way you can do this. And that is, you do it by validating the idea. You do it by validating the idea without really spending any money to do it. And the great thing to do there is you're just like saying, hello, I can offer this. Is anyone interested? And sort of like getting that out to your audience or what you believe is your audience, your market, right? And then you put that to the test. And if they are interested, then you basically say, prove it. Like, the way I do business is you pay for it and then I provide the service or the product, right? So you get the money up front. And that solves two problems. It validates the fact that this idea is going to work and you can bring money in. It also solves the problem of startup capital. Like, here is your money to get going. So now you can, if it was a plumbing company, here's the money to buy the tools or the parts or the vehicle or whatever it is you need to do plumbing services. Here's your cash. This is enough cash certainly to rent a vehicle if you don't have one, and to rent tools for a day or two and go out and do a job and make a profit. You're already profitable on day 1 and 2. And you've just validated the business idea that it suggests that there'll be more customers coming and you can sustain it, right? So that's not the be all end all, but it at least is enough to convince you that it does make sense to pursue this further, right? So that's why I advocate for the position I've just stated. We're not getting a ton of questions in the chat. There are 23 people here. I'll give it a couple of minutes, and if you guys have any questions, get in the chat. Let me know. If we don't really get any questions, I'll probably end up winding it down. But yeah, that's what I would say. And I just want to reiterate in the meantime, until we get some questions, that if you're looking to learn business, check out that course. That course will teach you everything you need to know about how to start a business, how to run a business, and how to find success in business. Now, this helps you, obviously, if you're starting a business. It also helps you if you have some kind of corporate career. Okay, if you want to be a manager or anything like that, as a sort of fringe benefit, you will learn what's important to business, how business works, and that will help you in a traditional career too. It'll be invaluable. Okay. How do you validate an app idea before building it? Well, there's a lot of options for that. Okay, you don't have the app, right? But you're going to basically try and find people to prove that they would buy this thing, right? Now, I know what some people have done. First of all, I got to say with a big disclaimer is that I'm not in app development. Okay, so that's not my core competency. So I couldn't tell you all the little details of that particular industry and the very latest way of monetizing it and all this kind of thing. But what I have seen in the past, Okay, is people doing things like GoFundMe, you know, accounts or campaigns or whatever you call them, that say like, look, I'm a developer, I'm developing this, whether it's a game or it's an app, and saying like, you know, here's where we are, and you can join this thing, and you put your money in up front, and there'll be a refund if it ends up not getting made. But in the meantime, you're guaranteed to get the product for free when it's finished, if you sort of, you know, fund me now. I've seen people use that model. I don't know how effective that is, but that's a model. Now, when an app is on a marketplace, like, you know, Apple App Store, or is it Google Play, or like these kind of things, I don't know how you would do it there, but basically you need to get proof that people are willing to part with their money before you go down that road. And if, you know, you're thinking of making a game or something and you just can't get that, then before you spend 2 years of your life or whatever it is developing a game only to find out you can't sell it, no one wants to pay for it, you know, instead you have an opportunity to pivot and say, okay, well, maybe people don't want this game, but what if I put out a thing and said, here's some productivity software, a productivity app that I can do, that like is a plugin for Outlook, or a plugin for Google, or some you know, Chrome, some larger thing that people will be willing to pay for, right? And you can set up the selling mechanism for that first. So you would go on Marketplace and you'd create some kind of placeholder that you can offer and say, here's the plugin, you pay for it, you get this, it plugs it in, and then when the app is developed or it's finished, you know, it'll be uploaded and installed automatically with no extra charge at that point or something. I mean, you know, something along those lines. That's how you would do it. You have to be able to prove that people will pay for something before it's delivered, right? And if you don't understand how that looks like, think of every purchase of a physical product on an online store, like Amazon being the prominent example. You know, I want to buy a sweater or something. I pay up front and I trust that they will send it to me, and I trust them to do that. And it will arrive, I just have to wait, right? It's that model, right? So you just have to apply that. Maybe if there are people in here that are more directly plugged into the software industry these days, they might be able to answer that for you. Business-related questions only. You're wanting to ask me about my hair, I imagine. That's the obvious thing. Yes, it is real. And no, I can't give you the secret. Alfer says, I'm studying petroleum engineering. What's your prediction of petroleum in the future? Well, look, that industry is when I was describing traditional industries, like they've been around for a while, they're going to be around for a while. That's one of them. Okay. So yes, it will be around. Now, notwithstanding the stigma around some of that, right, today, unfortunately, we have no valid alternatives. There's no other options if we want planes to fly and cars to run and all this kind of stuff at the moment, right? There just is no substitute. And same with the petrochemical industry. You know, someone in my family was a chemical engineer, and 30, 40 years ago, like petrochemicals were the big thing when they started making plastics and styrofoam and stuff. They make all that from crude oil, right? So that's a huge thing. Like in material science, they're doing all kinds of exciting work there and innovating new materials from petrochemicals. And I mean, that's going to be around for a while. Now, what the job market looks like and the waves of hiring and all that, I don't know. You can do research into that. But long term is that, yes, that will be around, and that will be very lucrative because, you know, we need that. And the needs of humanity are only increasing every year when it comes to this stuff. So unless they come through with fusion technology or something like that, like, you know, in all of a sudden, like in record time, petroleum industry is where it's at. Theo, is that how you say that? Theo says, between an MBA and a Master's of Business Analysis, which is stronger? I don't know much about a Master's of Business Analysis. They're coming out with all kinds of, sort of permutations of different degrees and things. It's just splitting off into all kinds of new qualifications and things that, like every month they're coming out with new stuff. So I'm not sure, but what I can tell you is that an MBA is pretty much universally recognized, and it's a known quantity. People know exactly what that is when you say I have an MBA, like in business circles. But Masters of Business Analysis, I don't know precisely what that is. Is that some form of like business that is heavy on statistics or something like that? A little bit more math, a little bit more applied statistics, numerical methods. I'm not sure. Now, here's how you find out, okay? This is what you do, okay? Go on LinkedIn and look, do a people search, okay? And you can confine this to a certain geographic region, like your city or region, whatever, or your specific industry. And do a people search for people with certain job titles that you would want to have, okay? So let's say your ambition is to be the vice president of R&D at a petroleum company. Let's say that was your ambition. Do a people search for people with that job title or who have previously held that job title, okay? And then of the results you get, all these individuals that pop up, go look at their profile, look at what they have, okay? And then see if they have a Masters of Business Analysis, okay? And if they all have a Masters of Business Analysis, that tells you something very powerful about the value of a Masters of Business Analysis. That would tend to suggest it's going to get you where you want to go. If none of them have a Masters of Business Analysis, that tells you something else, right? Doesn't seem to really be that important for this particular ambition that you have. You could also do that search the opposite way. You could do a search for Masters of Business Analysis, do a people search for profiles that contain that, and then go and look at those profiles and see what jobs or what career path those people are in. Has it gotten them right to the top? Maybe they're all CEOs or something and they went right to the top. That would say something very powerful. If they're all like working at, McDonald's or something, that tells you something else. So you can do that kind of research to validate the real world prevalence and usefulness of some of these qualifications. Okay, I don't have the answers, but you can easily find out specifically for this one. CL Flan says, what's your opinion on franchising? Okay, here's my opinion on franchising. It's great for people that want to switch off their brain. They're doers rather than thinkers. They can't figure out how to succeed in business, so they need someone to tell them how to do it. Here, I'm going to do all the thinking work for you. Here's what you need to do. You need to call yourself this, okay? This name, McDonald's. You've got to call yourself that. And here's the sign that you put up. Okay, here's the phone number of people that will install that sign for you. Here's how you lay out your restaurant. Here's the equipment you need to purchase for your kitchen. Here's how you, the amount of employees you hire. Here are their specific roles. Here are all the procedures. Blah, 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 blah. Here's how to do everything. All you've got to do is now go and do all of this, and you will make a lot of money. And then for our part, we're going to take most of that money, and we'll allow you a little percentage of it for your trouble. Okay? Now, is that a good thing? Well, it's good for some people, right? If you couldn't have figured out what to do in the first place, this is a solution. This helps you. You will succeed doing this. For other people, it may not be the way to go because, you're not a moron. You know your business and you know what to do, and you're very smart. You're very capable. You didn't need their help to make certainly that amount of percentage that they're allowing you. You could have made that, or maybe even more, doing your own entirely original idea, right? You do another restaurant. It's not called McDonald's, but it's, it sells burgers or hot dogs or whatever. And you might not make as much money as a McDonald's, but whatever you make, you keep. And it turns out you're making more doing that than you would getting a percentage of a McDonald's. So, it can go both ways. There's good franchises and there's bad franchises. There's people that really succeed doing franchising. And there's people that fail. So, it's not good or bad. It's something that's, the question is whether it's appropriate for who you are, what your goals are, and what your capabilities are. That's my opinion on franchising. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, I think I've got to the end of the questions. I will be back in just less than an hour. I do another weekly live stream called How to Get Hired. And pretty much is self-explanatory. That's where we talk about job interviews and resumes and, recruiters and, what job interviews look like from the other side of the table and all this kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that, tune in to my YouTube channel, the same channel, in about 50 minutes, 50 minutes. And you can ask questions and stick around for that. In the meantime, check out this course. You want to learn business? That's a gold mine for like $100. I mean, the sheer amount of benefit that will give you. Just to illustrate something, a few years ago, I like this sort of example. I advised a startup founder that I was consulting, that they were using me as an advisor, and I advised them to do a specific thing. I said, don't farm out this particular thing. What they were doing is they were wanting to pay a tech company to develop an app for them or develop some software. I can't remember. This is several years ago, but and they got several quotes back from different software companies, and they were saying, yes, we can do it. It's going to cost this much, and this is the conditions. And I advised them not to do it. I said, don't do this. You need to keep this in-house. You can sub out other things, but keep this in-house. If you go down this road, this is what you can expect. There'll be delays, there'll be extra costs, and in the end, you won't get a very good result. And they did not listen to me. And they went ahead and they did what I advised them not to do. And then, I can't remember, a matter of time later, like several weeks later, they came back, and the person that represented that company was really honorable, and they said, look, you advised me to do this. I did not take your advice. In that, I made a mistake. What you predicted would happen happened to a T. This is where we are now. This is the situation we're in. We've sunk this much money into going down this route, and we haven't gotten to the finished product yet, or the end result, the deliverable yet. But in order to get there, apparently it's costing more and more and more money all the time, and there's more and more delays. So, I don't know if we should pull the plug now, or we should just stick this out and pay what's going to end up being pretty much double what we'd agreed on to get this actually to completion. And, and I went home and I did a calculation, and I said, okay, this is how much money you're paying me to advise you. And it was this much. This is how much money you just lost by not following my advice, right? So it's for this amount of money, you could have saved yourself this cost, right? So it was totally worth it. I am adding a lot of value here. It's this kind of thing with that course, for a pittance, $100, which is nothing. That $100 plus your time and effort to take the course and learn the material, it's going to save you so much in just avoiding bad business decisions and possibly, hopefully, making good business decisions that lead you to make a lot of money, or if you end up not going down the entrepreneurship route for the rest of your life, maybe you go back to the corporate world and get a job. You get promoted a lot sooner because you know how to run a business, you know how to do business, you know what's important to a business, and you can think like the owner of a business, and you can predict exactly what they would want you to do in whatever situation and do it. And you also know how to communicate properly with people and all this kind of stuff. And that will allow you to be more valuable. It'll allow you to get promoted sooner. You climb the ladder, go a lot higher. I mean, what's the value of that? When you look up the premium of salary that you made for X many years for the rest of your career, a lot. It's really a no-brainer. Now, maybe you don't want to get this from me. You want to go take a traditional degree from a university. That's fine, but educate yourself, one way or another from a legitimate source. Okay, not getting a lot of questions, but so we're going to end it here. But thank you to there's 21 people here. You guys are awesome. Thank you for joining me today. I wish you nothing but success in your entrepreneurial ventures. Entrepreneurship is an incredible thing. It allows you to work for yourself. It allows you to, achieve your potential financially. And it can even allow you to do a hobby or a passion as your primary source of income, which that in itself is a huge blessing for a lot of people, because you spend your life working. It might as well be on something that you love and enjoy. It can enable that for a lot of people. So I wish you nothing but success in your efforts. You guys are awesome. I will be back next week, same time on this channel with another episode of Side Hustle Ideas. Take care.